episode one, so let's get started. Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining us here for the Bubble Tea Club Investor Webinar. Myself here is Robin Hopp from Birchal. I'm here joined by Pam, Jenny, and Tim. So look, you're the Bubble Tea Club, and what a business and what an amazing team here we have. What we're really going to do here today is run through a number of questions which have come up really through this process of opening up this investment offer, which is going to be opening up next week. It's very exciting. And then we're going to open up the floor to everybody who's attending here today and invite you all to ask your questions about the offer. And I know a lot of them have been coming through. So as I said, we'll do our very best to try and get to them. But before we ask about the business, I'd love you all to just quickly introduce yourselves.
Yeah, easy. I will start. So we're the co-founders of Bubble Tea Club. You already see a lot of Jenny and I, but we have Tim as well here, which I'll let him introduce himself. We're pretty involved. we're pretty involved in all aspects of the business, especially during the first 12 months. We were pretty much slotting ourselves into different areas of the business. Whoever just needs help, which area of the business needs focus on, we were just slotting ourselves in. 12 months down the track, I think we have a better gauge of where our strengths are and where we'd like to take the business with. So for me, my background is in marketing. So I oversee all the branding, any touch point the customer has with our brand, I oversee that as well. And we're also currently involved in strategy too.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more left field. My background is actually an optometrist, and I guess I never really thought I'd be doing something a little bit more risky. But I have my partner is a bit of an entrepreneur himself, and he's always knew he's wanted to do business. And I think for the many years I've been together, it's definitely rubbed off on me, and I've always been interested in doing business. And I think when we started during the pandemic, this gave the perfect opportunity for me to explore this, and it's something that I find super rewarding and love. So yeah, what about you,
Awesome.
Tim?
Yeah, so I started off focusing on our customer service and our website on as well as packing the team. And now my main focus is primarily on our product, our plan for international growth, as well as our website. My background is I'm actually still in high school, so I'm still learning this class. And yeah,
Love it. Absolutely love it. I have to admit, and when we were first working together in the process, and I remember when I had a chat with Drew, who's helping you obviously, work with PR and get some of those connections out there. He just frothed at the fact that you'd been working on the business, and really it was around school that you were just so involved in getting the business up and running. And Tim, I think it's just amazing. And then so many people will probably think, God, I really wish that I'd done something like that when I was at school. But, yeah, it's absolutely amazing. Good on all of you. And really, you've only just tipped on the surface, and we've all heard a bit of a story about how the business has got here. But before we get into any questions, bring us up to speed. How did you get here? What really got you to this point as a business? You've achieved so much in such a short period of time, but the backstory is just so interesting. I think we've got to start there.
Yeah, I think we kind of started in a sense of urgency. It was the peak of COVID, right? So I lost most of my clients, especially when it's in hospitality. Jenny was stood down as from her job, and she's an optometrist, which from an Asian background, we're meant to be very secure jobs. And Tim as well was also from school. He kind of saw, because his brother runs like a chain of restaurants and stuff, he saw how much impact it had on him as well. That's when he was on Channel 10 promoting how to support hospitality. So that's how Tim and I actually started working and connecting with each other in April, before April last year. And then suddenly all over social media, everyone was talking about, hey, restaurants are shutting down. And people, as a joke in Singapore, was auctioning bubble tea for $2,000 to $3,000 as a joke, because you couldn't even get a takeaway when they were in their lockdown. And where I live, you couldn't even get access to bubble tea. Like, it's not even an Uber. So even if I wanted to pay for the price of $13, I still couldn't get it delivered to my house. So I was like, this is crazy. I was like, just imagine if you can make bubble tea yourself at home really easily and affordable as well. And then Justin rocked up to my house the very next day with like ingredients. I shot everything in my living room. Tim put up the website with Yi, and we kind of got off the ground in 4 days. We went viral from day one, and it's never really stopped since then. I think the biggest part for us is that we're very community driven. So we actually let our community decide for us what the next step is. And what we mean by that is that when we launched, we actually didn't know how the packaging would look.
Yeah.
And when we went viral, there was like thousands of comments just flooding through on our social media. And we were actually like sitting there and reading every single comment. Like, this is amazing to us, but also
Yeah.
they're telling us like, oh, have you thought about using a paper straw instead of using plastic? Oh, like, what a great idea. So we did that the very next day. All of our orders went out with paper straws. And that's how we started building our Facebook community, because at the end of the day, the product is for your consumers and they tell you what they need and want. Like we even
100%.
go to them. Yeah. So we even go to them directly and be like, hey guys, during the period of Christmas, we had some people tell us they were not happy with particular couriers. So for your experience, tell us which couriers worked well for you during Christmas. And so they did. And then the next day again, we had our operations team oversee trials of different types of couriers. And
community also asked about top-up items and having it as a single item as opposed to our normal kits, so that they could top up and customize it the way that they would like it as well. So we did that, and I think by allowing the customer and the community to be so involved, they're a lot more committed and a lot more loyal to our brand. And I think that's what's actually really helped build our brand and make bubble tea so popular.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's so interesting to hear. And I mean, it's really just tipping on the surface. And I will say to all attendees, I can see that some of the questions are coming through in the chat function. We're going to try and use the Q&A feature today. So if you could please stick to just the Q&A feature just to ask all your questions, that will keep everything super smooth. Thank you so much. And please do ask them as and when you wish to. We've just got a number of questions which we're going to get through because they keep on coming through, and we're hoping that they'll answer some of your questions. So really, one of the things you've already touched on, the fact that you've gone viral, you've received tons of press coverage, you've grown the business so quickly in such a short period of time. But what amazes me is how quickly you can respond to changes. You say you changed, you know, the way that you produce products in a day. How have you gained that? How have you got that operational success? Is it operating a very lean model? Is it overseeing absolutely everything and making sure that you're in control of it? What do you believe is really the key to that operational success?
Really lucky that with the co-founders, we were lucky to have really good communication. And when I say that, it just means like whenever there was an issue, we could always address each other. And we're working so hard, like day and night on it. Like when we first started, it was pretty much like 9 8. Like we didn't know where we were going to pack, by the way. So my partner, like we were getting sales. I'm like, oh, it's like, where do we don't even have a courier. We don't even know where we're going to pack. And so we actually used, like during the COVID time, my partner, or Tim's my little baby brother-in-law, by the way.
Yeah.
So we actually used his restaurant. And so we were packing from there when it was absolutely closed, and we didn't know where couriers were supposed to come from, and we worked like whenever we had an issue, we just address each other. It was like from 9 a.m. we'd get to the store, and then like 1 a.m. we'd go home. We were absolutely exhausted, but at the same time, because we were so committed to it, day and night, if I message Pam would be up like working on it. And I think that's what's helped us be able to make really lightning fast changes.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of having multiple co-founders.
Yeah.
All of us are extremely driven, so there's no way I could slack.
Yeah.
Because if Jenny's out here doing something and Tim's like, oh, website this change and this change, you're just really just working with each other.
Yeah.
Having like a really a sense of trust, a sense of urgency has really helped us to get to where we are. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, it's so key, really. I mean, but you've had to be so focused on the business and just growing it as quickly as you possibly can, responding to your customers. And so as a small team, everybody plays their part, and everybody in doing that is really, you know, as responsible as they can be for the business and growing it. So that's fantastic to hear. I mean, it's really interesting because you've achieved so a lot. What do you actually believe to be your most significant milestone to date?
Well, I think having the community was actually a big one, because we're so focused on it, and for someone to be able to see that we were doing well, I think it made it very rewarding. I remember when Pam and I came home from packing, and we got nominated for People's Choice Awards. I'm like, oh my God, like,
what?
like this, yeah, I can't believe that this has actually happened. I think that is something that's so rewarding to us. And although it's not like a milestone in numbers, I think that's something that we will probably remember forever. Also being able to see the team grow, because it's never really stopped for us at all. Like it's been go, go, go.
Yeah.
We never really stopped and look at how big our team has actually grown and what an amazing team we've actually grown as well. It was only until like we had the Christmas dinner, we're like, wow, there's so many of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that actually really allows us to unite. And another thing was like I said, we were packing from a little restaurant. I think it was like 30 square meters, and it's actually maternalized. And to be able to see it maternalized into a 550 square meter warehouse was absolutely incredible. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've actually had so many questions come through, and I really think that we're going to try our best to get through some of these. And I'm really going to just kick off with some of them, and just working down through the Q&A feature, as I've mentioned here. So a question here, which I find really interesting. Somebody's asked why you've chosen to go equity crowdfunding instead of take up loans. I'd love to hear really what your take is on this.
Yeah, so that was actually a very big discussion internally for us. And because we're very new to venture capitals, crowdfunding, and raising in general, at the core of it, what we realized is that one of our values is community, and that we wouldn't have been here today if it wasn't for the community. And so it just made so much sense for us to go through crowdfunding equity and allow investors to join into our success. And we've actually had people ask us as well, like, I'd love to join on as an advisor. I'd love to invest into your business. And people are just really excited about it when they talk to us about it, and it has shown to be a really good channel for us. I think we had like the amount of EOIs that we had come in was insane. Like Robin was telling us, is pretty crazy traction we've had in first launching. So like the biggest at the core of it is going through supporting our community, and that's the reason why I went to equity crowdfunding.
100%, 100%. And there's a lot of questions here. So how can investors be sure that you will not be undercut by another pop-up business? I know that you've actually got quite a lot of questions on competition, and this is something which you've been answering from the get-go. So really, how can investors be sure that you're not going to be undercut by another business that finds suppliers in Taiwan?
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us is at the core of our business is there's three things. We're very big on experience, big on quality, and again on the community.
Yep.
And we also get a lot of questions of people, which we also saw through email as well. It's like, hey, are you guys concerned if the bigger guys like start to open up their own DIY bubble tea kits? Are you concerned if you go into Coles and you can buy a kit? I think the biggest thing for us is experience, and we've actually pretty adamant about our quality. So we put it in the other way. If we were to open a shop, a physical shop, and to sell our bubble tea ready-made direct to consumers, do we think that consumers will still come into our store? And I'm pretty confident to say that we think they will, because they've actually come to us and said, hey, I'm so surprised I could make a bubble tea at home. But not only that, but actually tastes as good or better than the stores. And that's their words as well. And we also have people telling us, and that's the reason why we partnered with master chefs. Like we didn't take this recipe lightly, and we didn't make DIY bubble tea kits just because it was a good idea, but we actually genuinely like the drink as well. And we wanted to make sure it was a really good drink, which is one of the important why we source from Taiwan. That's like getting leather from Italy. So in that aspect, we think we do have a really good chance in standing up against them. We've had a lot of people come in to compete with us during this time, to a point where they even like trying to replicate our style of photography, the Facebook ads that we've had. And to this day, we're the first to start, and we're still leading in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in any industry, there's always going to be competition that shows up. So it's really a case of not only seeming the biggest, but being the first and really providing that level of service that people engage with. And once you get to a level, it's really not going to be possible for people to go in and kind of really like replicate what you're doing, because you've built such a strong brand. And somebody's already asked here as well how your pearls are so good. So I can tell that your customers are saying fantastic things about you, because I see those comments as well. So it's fantastic to see. You've had a question here about business advisors and who they are and who the expertise and successful projects, what successful projects they've been a part of, and really who's kind of joined the team as an advisor.
Yeah, so we've been talking to a lot of different advisors who are also really experienced with scaling e-com and specifically scaling businesses internationally.
Yeah.
and solidifying different types of supply chains. But unfortunately, we're still finalizing a lot of the structure with our different advisors.
Yeah.
So we aren't actually able to disclose too much about them at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're pretty excited about connecting with those people.
Yeah, they've had a lot of experience, decades of experience in scaling in internationally. So it's really exciting working with them and potentially working with them at the moment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And, you know, what are the first steps to really taking the business global? You've had a lot of questions about this because your whole campaign has been a lot about not only, you know, really solidifying your position as the market leader in Australia, but taking the business global because you've identified opportunities overseas. We've had chats about this. So what's the first step and what are the supply and logistic concerns?
Yeah, so that's actually probably one of the most fantastic questions that we've ever had asked. And obviously, I can't tell everyone everything, as a lot of it is still top secret and in the works. But I'd first like to set that, you know, the bubble tea market is massive, and it's projected to, you know, hit over $4.2 billion in the global industry valuation, and that is also not accounting for the fact that we are growing the bubble tea market.
Yeah.
So firstly, we've currently split this into 3 different phases. And so in our first phase, we'll be focusing a lot on awareness. And in this phase, we've already actually started marketing and testing different types of messaging with our customers internationally. And so in this phase, we'll be focusing on creating brand awareness and solidifying that, you know, that we have the perfect product for these customers and that our messaging and our marketing is down pat and focused and ready for us to scale. And then that moves into our second phase where we're currently focusing on, you know, getting local fulfillment and getting boots on the ground. In this phase, we'll be, you know, optimizing our supply chain and our logistics, as well as setting up our local supply chain in each of these different countries so that we can have local fulfillment. And we've already also started testing this with different Amazon fulfillment and 3PLs for our different products. And so for this phase, you know, the focus will be on ensuring that our supply chain is a really well-oiled machine that will allow us to grow and scale with ease. And then the final phase of this plan that we're planning is to sell, and to make it rain.
And rain popping through.
Yeah, and this is where we go all out on our marketing. And this is also where we would really love, you know, our investors and our different ambassadors of our brands to come in and help. So for example, you know, if your sister Karen lived in America and she likes bubble tea, or even better yet, she actually has never even tried it before. You can be like, you know, get onto this bubble tea club trend and, you know, begin building our community with us.
Yeah.
So with like this plan, we really think that it will allow us to continually scale to many different markets and ensure our international growth. And it will also include different markets that haven't been able to try bubble tea yet, which is really exciting.
Absolutely. Oh, I don't personally know any Karens in America, for instance, but I do have some friends over there who'll definitely tell about Bubble Tea Club when you do launch over there. Such a fantastic answer, really, in the phases that you've broken it down as well. Because when you talk about market testing and going out there and experimenting with the type of customer who you're going to get, it's so important that you really just identify kind of what communication you're getting out there and really how what your likely customer actually looks like. So doing that market testing is essential, and that's awesome to hear that you've done that. We've actually we've had so many questions here, and I'm really just trying to work out how to best organize some of these. And one of the questions which you had is, hey, how are sales as COVID lockdowns ease up? So obviously you started the business in April 2020, and we saw, that we were in a lockdown for quite a long period of time here in Melbourne. The rest of the country didn't have lockdowns as long. We've eased up for a long period of time. So what have sales been like since the start of 2021?
Yeah, so we actually had the lockdown was in November last year, and we actually had our biggest month coming out of lockdown. And I think the issue is that we were not a lockdown product because bubble tea market is just underserved in general. So you think about coffee and tea. Imagine that you cannot make it yourself at home at all, and then you have to pay someone $7 to $9 to make it. The lockdown, if anything, actually just shifted consumer behavior. And for the first time, because they're at home, they actually just made it a massive opportunity for us to start. We think that the idea would have still been successful outside of lockdown because, yeah, again, like bubble tea is just massive in general. Through social media and through our branding, we're able to educate people about bubble tea as well. So we actually have people who've never had the drink before trying it for the first time for us, and we've actually done surveys to ask them this.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And in general, I'm trying my best to think about what questions to ask next because there's just so many to choose from. So you've asked, people have asked really about overseas plans and the market, and you've talked in a lot of detail about that. So I think there's a really interesting question here about repeat customers and retention. And I'm going to really mesh that into another question around the lifetime value of a customer, because I know that you've built this business online. It's really all about marketing and building that engagement with that customer. So I'd really love to hear your answer on what can you tell me about customer retention, how many repeat orders you have from customers, and what the lifetime value of a typical customer is.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing for us is because we've only been around for a year. Bubble tea has actually been around for 40 to 50 years when it was invented. I was introduced to drink to it by my parents. So that just goes to show how long the drink has just continued to stay. If anything, it's just getting more popular. So one,
Yeah.
we're still figuring out how long this would be. But I'm just saying, like, think about coffee, think about wine, think about Coke, and just like beverages. There's actually no ending life cycle for it. And the way that we've packaged it, the shelf life is quite stable as well, which means you can easily access it in your pantry at any
Yep.
time. So for us, we've had over 25% of people come back to us. What we find is that people
Amazing.
tend to like purchase us for the first time to trial the product. And then they could,
Come back.
yeah, they actually come back in 2 weeks and buy a larger pack after that.
Wow.
And then to stay
Once
on
they-
and come back.
Yeah, once they finish, then we realize that they're coming back after like a month or 2 months to repurchase because they're out of stock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And also, somebody else here, Steve, has asked a question around exclusive rights to products so it protects investors. I'm sure you get questioned quite a lot about the general IP of the business itself. There's absolutely a lot of value inherently in the brand that you've built and the community that you've got. And in a lot of cases, for small startups, that is the most valuable aspect of the business itself. But I'm sure you're asked this question quite a lot around exclusive rights to products and IP. So over to you.
Yes, so we actually have trademarking undergoing for and different searches going on for different about different trademarks going on in Australia and our different target markets. And then we've also signed exclusive agreements with a few of our factories, and we're currently in the process of negotiating further contracts with our other factories and our different suppliers as well.
Yeah. So, and we've also, this is where our advisors have come in, who are in the same industry. They've been around for ages, and they're also global as well, who have actually taught us different ways on how to capture IP, which you can't disclose
Yeah.
publicly, but don't worry, we are across it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And also, I mean, when we talk about overseas protection, another question that Jova here has asked is, are there any competitors overseas that you might be concerned about going into those other markets? In some areas, I know that you've identified that there are currently no businesses serving this need. And so you've done a little bit of market testing. So are there any competitors that you're concerned about at the moment?
We're actually not really concerned about our competitors at the moment because they're pretty small. There are a couple who have tried to copy at this stage, but I think, again, coming back to the point where we have such a fantastic community who are very loyal to us, I think that really separates us and what will separate us, and we're still leading the market internationally or here. Despite that there are competitions overseas, but they're it's still very small. They're asking us who are from Australia, can you ship it over there?
Yeah. So you're asking our customers, we ask people that were purchasing when we soft launch into the US and Canada. We're like, hey, like, isn't there like a lot of bubble tea over there? Why would you why they're actually messaging us and telling us, please let me know when you open up shipping.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's actually been like, we have really, really innovative and creative marketing ideas. and that's actually been really, really awesome. And
Yeah.
it's actually what's actually been able to push our growth, just in Australia and for sure internationally as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And somebody else here has kind of asked on the product, what's your average cost per order and average order price as well? So what does a typical customer spend on average when they come onto your site?
$80, but we actually see a lot of we're actually working with performance managers, etc.
Yeah.
We think this number can actually be increased.
Yeah. Oh, great. Fantastic. Fantastic. Dan here has asked a number of questions, and some of them I'm going to just provide a little bit of context around, because Dan here has asked around, can you provide financial statements or auditing or an auditing report for the last 12 months and the company structure? So Dan, the offer document, which is going to be available when the investment offer opens next week, is going to be downloadable when you head to the investment page on the Birchal website. You can see the financial statements in the offer document there. So they will be available for you. There isn't an auditing requirement, and there's no need to sign a confidential agreement. The offer document is available to all who have expressed interest, so they will get early access. So for anybody who is here, who hasn't already submitted an EOI, I'm assuming that 95% of people who are here have submitted an expression of interest. But if you haven't already, I strongly encourage you to do so that you can get access to that at the moment. Then around kind of really some of your biggest challenges in the business at the moment and where you see the business growing. There's a lot of questions which have been asked around this, around referral fees. Apart from financial, what else do you need support with? Which actually I think is a really interesting question, because as a business, you're trying to get advisors in place and trying to grow the business itself. So what do you see as some of your biggest challenges in growing the business? No doubt you've had huge challenges in year one by doing 2 million in sales in your first year, but what do you see as your biggest challenges moving forward?
Yeah, I think in the first 12 months, it was making as many mistakes as possible and then just reacting really quickly to it. But as we grow our team, of course, the risk becomes bigger. And because of that, we've decided, and we are in the process of seeking advisors and have actually stopped talking to people in different areas of the business. So we've had people, which is some of you investors as well, who have contacted with us through LinkedIn. But we've had people like in operations, for example, quality assurance operations. They've had decades of experience. I think the really amazing thing is that there are people with decades of experience in our industry. And so we're just seeking their advice. We've even gone out to outreach to people that we see as leading in the industry. This is around the world, and we've been connecting with them. And it's been amazing that they've been really willing to talk to us about how their structure works, what's helped them, and the mistakes we can avoid. As part of our raise, we are actually looking to hire in different departments, experts in their field, who are really passionate about their industry and innovative as well. So if you guys are in supply chain,
Hey, no.
We also have if you have international expansion experience, message us. Some of you already are as well, but we're absorbing so much and making sure we have the right people to guide us into the right direction. Because if we're planning to propel and double down, we want to make sure we're amplifying on the right strategies.
I think it's just realizing that there are blind spots and figuring out what those blind spots are, and then getting the right people on board to fulfill those.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the questions as well, I know that the team itself is roughly around about 10. What's the sort of size of the team at the moment?
It's actually about 18 at the moment.
18. Great. So continuously growing and always gonna go in that direction as the business continues to grow. So also one of the other questions, which is really important kind of going into the investment offer next week, is how much you need in total and how much you're kind of structuring what you're giving away as a business. So the valuation itself will be in the offer document for anybody who's asking, but also kind of you can talk a little bit about the minimum and maximum target and the use of funds, I think, at this stage.
Well, you'll be able to see in the offer doc, but pretty much our minimum we're looking for at the moment is $500,000. That's because we do think that our business will continue to make some profits. But at the same time, in order to do global expansion, it is a super expensive project to do. Even just like marketing, the amount we're spending in marketing in Australia alone, we like when you look at the numbers, you're like, that's ridiculous. Like I wouldn't be able to make this much if I was just working a regular job. And to be able to spend that all into marketing and then be able to put that into perspective, US is so much bigger than Australia alone, like one city as big as Australia, right? So double down on marketing and using those funds into marketing and finding, like Pam said, getting the right people on board, which will be the most important as well.
The manufacturing. So it's basically a tying back into
stock.
the 3 phases.
Yeah.
So it's starting from a minimum raise of 500,000 up to $2 million. In the offer document, we will break down exactly how we intend to allocate that spend. But this is where our advisors are coming in, and we're pretty keen on getting this on board. The biggest part of this is being first to market. We have the demand there. We just need to be able to send products, have the resources and funds to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you talk about the US and really kind of expanding into that market, and it's really hard to see exactly what's going to happen in the future and where it's going to go. But if you had to indicate a sort of indicative timeline of when you imagine expanding operations over to the US, do you think that you can identify when you look to go over there, or is it a bit too ambiguous at the moment?
Yeah, so our current timeline is sitting around 6 to 12 months that we have our team and operations that are ready to go.
Right.
But we're already planning to focus on our market awareness, even when we don't have operations on the ground there.
Yeah, there's multiple things that we are testing and trialing. The awesome thing for us is that when we soft launch our marketing, it's actually easier for us to acquire customers there. But of course, one of the biggest challenges in e-commerce is shipping time and shipping cost. So we've actually played around with that number as well to break that down as an obstacle for consumers to see what their conversion rate would be. And it's actually been really promising, which is then what led us into the crowdfunding and gave us confidence to start looking into building up the free PL, getting people in the States there as well to help us.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There are tons of questions coming through. And for everybody who's asking the questions, thank you so much for your engagement. I can see a lot of questions here coming in around international expansion. If there's anything specifically you don't feel we've answered, please do ask it. We've covered a fair amount on there, so I'm not going to keep on asking you all about international expansion and how you're going there. There's a few questions here just around financial forecasts. For the purpose of going through an equity crowdfunding campaign, it's not really possible to go through the process of talking about forecasts in a very detailed manner, such as revenue and EBITDA. So we're not going to go through those questions in too much detail. I know as a vision for the business, you really want to be able to say, we're going to be able to hit 5 million, 10 million in the next 2 years, etc. That is obviously the aim for the business. You're an incredibly ambitious bunch. But just for the purposes of equity crowdfunding, we can't answer those questions around financial forecasts. Thanks for understanding. And look, please do keep the questions coming in. We will do our best to try and get through them. So one of the things as well that you've been asked here is, will you later look at distribution into Coles, etc.? If you do, I'm open to advice on how not to get screwed over. So I absolutely love this question. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, that's actually been like a pretty big point of like discussion between us internally as a team. And unfortunately, we actually haven't been able to come to a decision on that yet. And I don't think that we're also, at the stage where we want to do that, because our focus on community and our experience is so paramount to us as a business.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, again, it comes to our 3 core values. Does it help with the customer's experience? Is it high quality enough if it's placed on shelf? We actually have had Woolworths and Coles contact us. We've even had pretty large brands come ask us to acquire. But like, we want to really hold on to our community. We think that we really can't provide the level of experience that we aim for if we put it onto market shelves at this stage. Again, like, we keep selling out just online. So I don't think we can put more stock onto shelves just yet.
Yeah, and there's the risk that comes with putting your stock onto Coles and Woolworths and big brands like that, including shelf life and the amount that they need to hold in stock in each store. So giant risk there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on the kind of question that I've got here around, I know I really touched on financials and forecasts, but somebody here has asked a question around how much profit you've made in the last sort of 12 months. The business itself has been so focused on growth that really being focused on growth and profit is a very challenging aspect of being in a startup itself. But I'm wondering, really, when you get asked this question, what's your main focus? Obviously, you want to grow for the business itself to be able to succeed long term. But over to you. How much, in terms of just the financials and the breakdown?
Yeah, like our gross profit is really good because we're selling bubble tea. So
Yeah.
it's 60%. But in terms of like the profits, all the profit literally goes back into like stock and marketing and growing the business and being like getting this warehouse and everything like that, and that turns into assets. But we always see it as more of an investment rather than an expenditure.
Yeah, because the way that we see it is that we'll make the heavy investment up front to get the foundation right. And that just means when we're ready to scale, we can do that expansionally. And that's when our margins will go back up again as well. Yeah, I think the priority is to reinvest, not to make like profit.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's very challenging. And for anybody who's ever kind of read a book called Shoe Dog, which is kind of on the balances of cash flow and kind of makes it a very entertaining read, knows just it's the early story of Nike and how they built the business and balancing cash flow. But it's just such an entertaining read on how it's so impossible to focus on growth and try to manage cash as well at the same time. One of the questions as well, and I know you've had a lot around worldwide expansion, bubble tea club takeover. Somebody here has asked around the logistics plan to deliver worldwide. Now, I know that you've talked about the marketing and how you're really getting in front of some of these customers. Logistically, this has got to be something which you've talked about a lot internally. So please do, answer away.
Yeah, so our logistics plan is also broken up into different phases. And it is focused a lot on ensuring that, our stock, we try not to run out of stock as much as we can. And then also optimizing our supply chain so that our cost doesn't, and our bottom line doesn't get affected as much. And with this process, we have different team members in place to serve different roles. And this plan that we are looking to implement for our international expansion is broken up into 3 key phases. And the first one is a lot focused on our setup and ensuring that our manufacturing process, our quality assurance is on point and it's perfect and it's ready to go. It is our focus on our quality for our customers. And then the second part where we focus and begin to focus a lot on our logistics. So in this point, we are we're looking at signing a contract with some different freight forwarders potentially to help us navigate this issue. We're also looking to hire a few different team members to help us manage the workload of stock, supply chain, and our logistics in this area. And then finally, our last one is when we will have product on the ground, and that's where we will focus on constant maintenance and improvement on the already set up supply chain that was set up in the first 2 phases.
Yeah, awesome. And you've also had a number of questions here around exit strategy. No doubt this has been a question which has come through to you quite a lot, and it's so hard to really predict on what's going to happen for the business. But really, for yourselves, I know that you're focused on growing the business with the injection of cash in this round of funds. For anybody who is really asking about exit strategy, I really want to just kind of preface this with saying that you're investing into an early stage private company. So it's not a liquid investment as such. And so it's really important to know that it's not an easy buy and sell the next week. It's not that process at all. You're buying into a private company. There are a number of potential routes to have those shares sold and become liquid. One of those notably being an IPO, another one being potential dividends, another one being potential share buyback or a trade sale of the company. I know you've had this question answered as well, asked as well. So I'll hand it over to you before I answer it all completely.
Yeah, we're just basically thinking of going all in. So
yeah,
to talk about exiting. We just really hope that the people that invest into our business are confident in what we're doing and trust us in what we are. We can guarantee that we're all in. Haven't been
It's been 12 months.
It's been exceptional for us. So I think like investing is definitely a personal decision for our investors. And at the end of the day, we hope that you're investing into a business that you really are confident in and that you can trust us in this process as well. So everything that Robin has just mentioned are definitely options for you there. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're going all in. So we're hoping that you can support us on this as well.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And you've had a number of questions here around other people who are really interested to collaborate with you guys. And look, I'll for anybody who's messaging that around here, I think Alan, we're talking about a TikTok brand who's gone viral. Really happy to chat to you guys and bounce our ideas around for expansion. It really is so great to see just that you've built up this community and people not only want to help, but also want to get involved as a result of it. But just below that, we've had a question here from somebody who said in the UK, they believe that there's 3 to 4 established bubble tea DIY businesses have been around since maybe 2018. So what's your sort of approach here? Are you looking to go into the UK or are you looking to go over to the US first?
Yeah, I think there's actually there's a different perception. So the way that we've packaged it, we're actually one of the first to do it. We are the first to do it in Australia as well. I think the ones people are talking about are a very different quality to what we provide. But at the same time, we still get a lot of, at the end of the day, it's about experience. So the way that we package it, so it's not just the packaging itself, but from when the customer interacts with us online to when they make the drink at home, we empower them throughout the whole experience. And so we think our DIY bubble tea kits are not just unique in the form of the way it's presented, but also the whole journey throughout when they interact with us as well. Yeah. So that'd be really hard to replace.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, actually, a really interesting question that's come through I can see this has come through from a few people is around New Zealand and Canada as you know, geographic areas that to expand into. What's the sort of general thinking? Somebody has said, if you look to go to New Zealand, I'd happily help you with distribution here, etc. It's great. So when it comes to New Zealand and Canada as areas to expand the business into, you're not talking so much about those as areas that you want to focus on expansion. Sort of what's the strategy here? I'm sure you have a plan for this as well.
Yeah, so we've actually done quite a lot of market research on our different customers, and New Zealand has actually proven to be a really, really promising customer base, and we actually do and are currently in the planning process of a different growth plan specific for New Zealand. So I'd love to connect with whoever to help us with our distribution. Because that is actually a market that we are looking to go into as well.
Fantastic.
And then in terms of Canada, we've also had really, really good interest shown from our customers and our market research there. And Canada and US are potential markets that we would also look to target with our international expansion planning.
Yeah, so all 3 countries already soft-launched our marketing into there. And as part of our marketing is conducting quite a few surveys. So we're capturing quite a bit of information to learn about them before we're confident about which flavor range to send into free UPL, etc. So we have looked into New Zealand and Canada as well. If you guys know where to distribute, hit us up.
Oh, fantastic. And Joe over here has asked a question around what your main investments have been over the past year and what your largest expense is as a business. So actually, I think this is a great question from an operational perspective.
We were really lucky that at the beginning we only put in a bit of money, and we haven't really had to put money back in ever since. Because it's been such in high demand, we are lucky that our business has been positive cash flow throughout, and for us to be able to conduct the international, and that's why we're going, because it costs so much, that's now why we're going for funding in the first place.
In terms of expense, it would be our stock. And the main reason of that is just to meet demand. So yes, that is what we can say.
People want bubble tea. What can we say? What can we say? So somebody else here has asked what the next steps are for investors beyond submitting an EOI. I will take this one for you. So exactly, in the process of submitting expression of interest, to the expression of interest campaign, which is currently live on Birchal, will end on Monday at 10 p.m. And what will happen is then the next day, around midday on Tuesday, you'll be invited to invest early and be part of that really early investor group. So that will give you the opportunity to be one of the first investors. As well as this, it will actually give you the opportunity to gain preferred payment terms if you invest early. So if you invest during that private window, which we're only going to keep open for 48 hours, you'll actually not have to pay, complete the payment for your investment. We won't capture it until the end of the campaign, which usually happens 5 days after. And also you'll kind of be given the opportunity to come in early. And look, from the statistics that we can see, there's a significant amount of interest in the investment round. So for anybody who is looking to come in, highly encourage you to just make sure that you are aware of the investment offer opening. And if you do want to come in, you want to read the offer document and you want to read the other investment documents, do them on Tuesday when you can. So you get the opportunity to come in early. So one of the questions here below that as well, which you talked a little bit about driving awareness and your marketing. Is there anything else that you'd like to add in terms of your marketing awareness and your marketing strategy for launching in an overseas country such as the US?
Yeah, so the way that we position ourselves is not as a brand. We definitely, social media at the end of the day, marketing at the end of the day is about connecting with your customers and having a two-way conversation, which is why we're very big on community. Everything we've done from marketing perspective has also been responsive. So when we run our campaigns, a lot of, like, for example, for Chinese New Year, we were doing a campaign where you could open a red envelope through your Facebook Messenger. And that was a way for us to communicate information to our customers, educate them at the same time, but they felt like they actually had a conversation with us. Because we literally respond and create marketing campaigns as to how Jenny and I would actually talk. And we do monthly videos every single month to keep our customers updated as to what we're doing and just being really transparent, like what are we struggling with, what are things that we're looking forward to, etc. So in that sense, we feel like what we've built online is like an actual community of people that care about what we're doing. And that makes it very hard from a marketing perspective to replace, because it's like a friendship, right? It's hard to, you're not going to just leave a friendship if you genuinely care about your customers. And that goes the same for the people that we choose to partner with. Over Christmas, we chose to partner with small businesses and master chefs. So for example, Melbourne Bush Food, Hayden, the owner, was really amazing. We wanted to raise awareness for small Aussie businesses to support them, but to also expand our drink into not just the Asian category, but also introduce it to create drinks where you was using Australian bush food into our bubble tea. It was lemon myrtle, is sold out, which is amazing. We've done yuzu drinks by partnering with Master Chef Brian's and another small Japanese hospitality chain here as well. Our marketing is being very personal, and we do that by engaging real people, genuine people, and connecting with our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, it's going to be really a case of understanding the market as best as you can, responding as quickly as you can to the market conditions, as you've known with being able to grow a business really quickly in Australia in this year. So, I mean, we've got so many questions here. And what I'm really going to try to do for everybody who's here in attendance is just ask the really important questions that have applied to a lot and are coming through. So I can see that a lot of you are asking. I know that so many of you have asked about the international expansion. I can't stress this enough that this will be in the offer document when it does come to a bit more detail about it. And when you really want to best understand the business and that level of detail that you're really looking for. But when it comes to some of the business statistics, somebody here has asked what your sales growth is on a month-to-month basis. And I'm sure that this has just been such an exciting year to open the business and see the business just go from strength to strength. So what's it been like internally, month to month on a growth basis from your sales?
We put together a comparison of April when we started last year to this year. So we now actually get to compare how we're tracking, and we are Jenny has all the numbers.
In comparison to the last year, because we never really had seasonality until, well, we've only just completed our first year of seasonality. And in comparison to last year, April, we've doubled to triple the amount that we started with, and then continually on comparing May from last year, we've also increased, I think it was like 20 or 30% at this stage. So it'll be really exciting to see what it'll be like as we continue to grow, but we don't really have enough numbers yet. We've only been existing for about 13 months, so it'll be interesting to see how June does in comparison. But yeah, generally it's just been growing most of the time. I think with lots of D2C businesses, they continually you'd hope the trend that it does grow until we go November, December, even October. That's when Christmas period is, so you do expect it to be growing, and then you generally see a dip in January, February, and then it slowly grows up again.
Yeah, awesome. You've had a few questions as well around your return on advertising spend, and really how much it kind of costs to acquire a new customer. I know for any e-commerce business which is kind of built up and done it this quickly, this is such an interesting topic to really talk about, and no doubt people have been asking you this from day one, really how much it's kind of costing you to acquire a new customer.
Yeah, so it's been really interesting, because to us, every single marketing channel, it comes down to the content that you create. So we're really fortunate the content that we create it was going viral. It's like the first post that we ever did. So even dropped, like the ROAS was sitting at around a 6 and a 7, which is insane for us, because the retail industry standard would be probably sitting just around a 4. With the introduction of iOS 14, this has reduced as well. We've touched on a lot of different touch points for marketing channels, which is why we also invest pretty heavily in our marketing. Our CAC, so our acquisition costs, also varies for different channels. Google is a lot higher, because naturally by the time someone searches our name, they're ready to convert. Our awareness is a lot around our Facebook ads and Instagram ads. There, the CAC really ranges depending on the creative. We're constantly testing different types of creative. A lot of people, and especially the people here now, would have had ads bombarded by us because you've mentioned the words bubble tea club.
I went on the website, and the next day my feed was just full of bubble tea. I couldn't get enough of it.
Like, it does vary quite a bit, but one of the recent creatives we just released, you might see like our strawberry. We're pushing our fruit tea range, because we just did a collaboration with Ton. He's like a walking encyclopedia of fruits. We collaborated with him to release our new fruit tea range. We just did a creative on our strawberry fruit tea, and the CAC was sitting at like $6 to acquire a new customer through our fruit teas. But as we like learn more about our audience, what kind of segments respond really well, we're just hoping to lean this out before we start amplifying that strategy America, which is what we're testing at the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've actually had a question here, which I'd really love to answer for any potential investors who are listening in here now. So Adir has asked about the comments and claims made on this call. What are the claims out here? What's the IP sales? How does the crowdfunding how does crowdfunding work in this regard? So all the questions which are being asked are absolutely covered in more depth in the offer document, which will be coming out next week. This is a document which essentially goes through a hefty gatekeeper process through the CSF regime. Birchal itself is a licensed platform to be able to host these offers and to be able to sign off this document. And the team actually sign, declarations and provide proof of evidence of all these claims. So essentially, it's really important that a lot of the statements here are factually correct. Adir has also followed up with this question to be clear. I like these founders a lot. I'm sure people have been saying this from day one, and you're just such a phenomenal team. I think it's just incredible what you've achieved so far. But to really just answer your question, Adir, there is a very lengthy process, and for anybody who's interested, please do follow up with me, because I can send you some more information on the regime and what the CSF requirements are to open an investment offer, and what a company has to do and has to provide, because we have to go through quite a lengthy gatekeeper process before any company can open an investment offer on the Birchal platform. So yeah, that's it. And then somebody else here has asked around what the minimum investment amount is. I know that we talked about this a bit. It might be finalized in the offer document, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to answer this one.
I thought we mentioned it. It was so we're looking for a minimum subscription of $500,000.
Oh, I'm so sorry, actually, Jenny. Just to make it super clear, I think it's the minimum individual investment amount that any individual investor can invest. And then we've also talked a bit about sort of categories, but these can be finalized in the offer document if you wish to. But for any minimum investment amount, this is really actually up to the Bubble Club team.
Yeah, we're looking to get because we're like, again, coming back to our community, we wanted to get as many people on board as possible and then as an ambassador of our brand, and that's why we went down the source of crowdfunding as well, because we've had so many people in our community who've actually asked us, we want to invest, can we invest? And now it's absolutely exciting that you actually can. So in terms of like a minimum like spend, I think it's like 50. We haven't actually like really talked about like a minimum.
Yeah, the main reason, because we've been really fortunate, like Robin said, we have a lot of EOIs coming through. And if you guys were doing like submitting the EOI, it was already asking you guys as well as to what range you're looking to invest into. And we've had a spectrum from like $50 up to like more than $100,000.
Yeah.
And for us, we're discussing internally, like at the end of the day, the reason we did this crowdfunding is to be able to have like allow a lot of our community to join on board. So it's actually finding a balance of the number of investors we can get to join on. We just recommend that once the EOI offer opens up, that you that you be one of the first to invest into it as well. But we will have all of that finalized in our offer document soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We've had a lot of questions here. I'm just going through them, and a lot of them will be answered in the offer document. So just to really make it as efficient as possible for everybody who's there on the call, any question around the structure of the equity which is on offer, the structure of the equity which is held by the founders, the founding team, and any other investors will be displayed in the cap table, which will be in the offer document. Really, somebody else has asked about all the ingredients packaged in Taiwan, meaning labor costs are solely in relation to packaging for freight. Essentially, I know that you've been asked a lot about Taiwan and kind of bringing your ingredients over. So they're just asking simply, are all the ingredients packaged in Taiwan, meaning labor costs are solely in relation to packaging for freight? Yeah. So essentially meaning that they're kind of, the packaging itself is done over there as a result of not being, well, you're packaging over here, but essentially they're just being cost to be shipped over.
Yes, so we do have a team member in Taiwan who coordinates a lot of our packaging in Taiwan for us. And then that is for the majority of our products which are packaged over there. Yeah. And we also do have a portion of our products which are packaged here. And that's then that's why we're actually working to get those products also packaged over there. But it does require like different processes to be written up and different like methods of packaging that we need to look into and that we're currently looking.
Yeah. Australia.
Absolutely. And I think, you've already been asked this when it comes to your customers, when they wanted to make the switch from plastic to paper straws. Somebody here has asked a great question around what your commitments are to kind of ethical labor practices overseas. I have no doubt, and I'm going to ask this question from the perspective of seeing this before and also understanding really the sustainability factor of your products. I've actually seen this on social media when people kind of come to the likes of a glass bubble tea flask instead of a plastic one. I know that you've had issues, and I actually had a package delivered not too long ago with a glass container that arrived, and it was in 1,000 pieces. And so I can just imagine the issues with that. But what's your sort of commitments to ethical labor practices overseas?
Yeah, so in terms of ethical labor practices, we actually have a series of checklists. And basically, our team member in Taiwan, she actually is expected to go to each of our factories and do a quality control check. And then one of the other things that we're looking to implement as part of our scope for when we begin to work with different factories is we actually have them answer a series of questions and interviews first. so that we can ensure that we are meeting our different ethical requirements.
Yeah, because at the same time, it's also finding suppliers that follow all of that, but also share our sense of innovation because no one has really done this size of packaging before as well. But like Tim said, these are like 10-page reports on like just one single supplier with one aspect that we ask questions of to go through quality assurance. So that's pretty big to us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And look, somebody here has said that you've got a really strong return on advertising spend. Great work. Really interesting in seeing your marketing plan for the US. It'll be critical for a successful launch, since I've seen a few few in the USA already, but nothing as strong as you guys. So great work so far. So there's a narrow window of opportunity to really take it. So how much budget are you kind of looking to add? Well, obviously from this raise, what are you looking to spend on really the marketing launch in the USA?
I think in terms of our spend from the raise, we'll be focusing first primarily on bolstering our team.
Yeah.
And then in terms of us actually like in terms of our budget for the plan for us to go to the US, we actually haven't been able to finalize exactly how much we want to spend on our marketing, and then finalize the different types of stock that we want to send there. So that one is still a bit of a work in progress for us at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the good thing about marketing for like Facebook is that you can literally adjust it as you go.
Exactly.
So for us, it's like testing. As like we spend pretty heavily on marketing, but we're constantly testing to make it more effective. So, and that's the reason why we soft launch our marketing first. Because the awesome thing is that we're not building any new campaigns. We are literally running campaigns that we have in Australia, and then testing it out into. We just changed the word bubble tea to boba. And I actually lived in America, so I might have an American accent, so kind of converts well. But actually, I have family members like in America as well who have actually tested our products, and they're like, "Why are you not launching already like here as well?" So we're testing a lot of the market, and then when we launch the marketing into there, we're quite lean. Like to be honest, the creatives we're using are stuff that we built in Australia already, so we're not really like amplifying on the spend we have at the core of the campaign. Because what we really spend on is just more of the advertising spend and media. We will connect influencers as well, so it's just sending products.
Yeah, and I think one of the also really interesting parts of that is that when we actually do spend on marketing, we actually do get a direct return in our sales that we do. So we actually do adjust our budget based on what we see in our ROAS numbers. Before our big stock purchases for international expansion, we actually aren't planning to run, like we're actually planning to run positive cash flow in our international expansion plan.
Yeah, and also like launching this is why like Tim also broke it down into 3 phases. It's just making sure that when we're deploying it, we get it right first, and then when it's right, we amplify, and that's when we start to push a lot of spend out.
100%, 100%. And we've had a couple of other questions even around exactly what investors get, just to make it really crystal clear. You're getting shares essentially in the company itself, and so you'll be a shareholder in that company. Taking it moving forward, that means that once the company hopefully grows and you can kind of see where that company is going, you'll still always own that equity in the business up until a potential exit event, as we've discussed earlier in the webinar. The benefits really for investors, again, will really leave this majority to the offer document, so you can really see exactly what you're buying into. I really, just even from a compliance perspective, want everybody to really try and aim to read the offer document before you do make any investment decisions on coming into the company. And I also would love to state that retail investors, which are investors, for the majority of people, retail investors are capped at $10,000. Anyone wishing to invest more than this actually has to classify as a wholesale investor and provide a wholesale investor certificate. But to make this crystal clear, I will provide an understanding of exactly what that means in any comms going out next week for the offer, which is opening on Tuesday next week. As we've gone over a little bit, I'm going to be going through all the questions. And if anybody has a really specific question that we haven't answered yet, we'll endeavor to get back to you, as well as the team here. Look, it's been a real pleasure. And I know we've gone over a little bit, so thank you everybody for staying a little longer. But Jenny, Pam, and Tim, is there anything else that you wanted to cover off and really just, I guess, finish off the webinar with?
Yeah, we're just really excited about this expansion. We have so many people in place and support to make it happen. We just need you guys on board as well.
100%, 100%. Well, look, I am so excited for the offer launch next week. As we've kind of already mentioned, there's been a lot of interest through the EOI stage. So for anybody who is interested, highly encourage you when it does come to opening up the offer to go and check it out on the Tuesday when it does open. And also for anybody who didn't catch the whole webinar, there will be a recording. I'll send it out to everybody. Anybody who didn't have a chance to attend as well will also get a copy of the webinar itself. So we'll send it out. Everybody will have an opportunity to go and catch it later at another time. But Bubble Tea Club team, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm really looking forward to next week. So, well, fantastic. Thank you everyone for attending. See you soon. Bye.